Hello, this is Yaakov Kronenberg from Jerusalem. Tonight we'll be continuing a series of classes on Pisces ascendant and Jupiter in the different signs. Tonight we'll be talking about Jupiter in its own sign, Pisces. So we have what's called a double Pisces. Pisces ascendant with the ruling planet in Pisces. And like we always say, when you have the ruling planet in honor, it's true to itself, right? Because it doesn't have a dispositor. It never gives up its own actions. So a person who has the ascendant in Pisces, it's a nice configuration. It gives a person a lot of intelligence, a lot of wisdom. Makes a person very guru-like. The person thinks he's, everybody can learn from him, right? Because he's going to fulfill himself through himself. That's the ruler in the first house. You're going to fulfill yourself through yourself. And that could mean different things for different people. But here he is a person who, we'll talk about later on. We're going to do some famous people's charts that have it. But in any case, a person who has the ruling planet in the first, they want to fulfill themselves, through their being, through they are. A lot of times this comes out as people who want to be gurus, they want everybody to look at them and to think like them. I have two clients. It's also very interesting. It can be connected a lot of times with clothing, I found out. I have two clients with Jupiter and Pisces on the ascendant. They're both guru-like people. And they both you wear unique clothing. In Jerusalem, a lot of people wear, they want to get back into how the rabbis and religious people dressed 200 years ago. I have one American guy who has this. He dresses like somebody from Yemen, with turbans and the long skirts and things like that. And another American guy who also is not a Yemenite, but he dresses also. He just found his own very, very unusual, peculiar type of clothing that he identifies with and wears it. So it's interesting. I found people that have, because they want to be looked at also. They want to be, a guy who dresses like that. He walks down the street. Everybody, pays attention to him. So it's I guess there'll be women like that too. They dress in unique ways that people will stare at them, and so that's a lot of the times you'll see that when you have the ruling planet in number one house, because you identify with yourself and how you appear and how you dress. All these things are very, very important in your considerations. And so a person that, has the ruler of 1 in 1, when you have a Jupiter in Pisces, it's an honor that's very nice. You have the ruling planet in its own sign. And so you're going to be very interested in liberation, suffering, overcome. Always we say the first day, the ruler in 1 in 1, the Pisces always wants to overcome suffering. That's the motif in this life, is to escape, to get out of the world of suffering. And each one chooses in his own way how they're going to approach this. And when you have the ruler of 1 in 1 in Pisces, it's going to be through usually like in a very Piscean way. They're going to go for different things connected with Pisces. Pisces, for example, rules psychology, psychiatry. It rules mysticism. It rules. In another hand, it can rule like in a more secular way. It can rule photography, filmmaking, all sorts of things. Underwater fishing, underwater type of things. Connections with the sea, the ocean, all sorts of areas like that. The person's going to go to try to fulfill himself. But again, like I say, it's very connected with the person himself, who he is and what he is, because he has the ruler of 1 in that. But he'll probably choose one of those fields, for example, to go off into a very Neptunian type of Jupiterian, Neptunian type of way, right? Jupiter, on the one hand, is the planet that's searching for wisdom, and Neptune wants to get out of the body. It wants to be merged with the universe. And so, as I said, I want to look at one chart tonight. He was a very famous man who was a very famous psychiatrist. He was actually a guru type of figure in the 60s. He was a cult, what do they call it? A cult figure in the 60s. He was a psychiatrist, which is, again, suitable for the Pisces ascendant. We'll talk about that a little. And he was very unorthodox. He was an unorthodox psychiatrist, and he wrote a number of books. We'll see his unorthodoxity, that he also had Uranian influence on the ascendant. So the Iranian always makes a person unorthodox, unconventional. And so because of his unconventionality and his opposition to orthodox psychiatry, and he sort of thought that the patients were well and the doctors were sick, something like that. I don't remember anymore from his books, but something in that order. And he was very, like I say, he was a cult figure. He was very, very guru-like cult figure. And let's just look at a little of this chart from the perspective of the ascendant. The ruling planet is in 1. So again, when you have the ruler in 1, you're concerned with yourself. So he went off into understanding himself. Right? When a person goes into psychiatry, they want to help other people. But the Ikaron, the main reason they go in there is also to help themselves, to analyze themselves. And so he had a chart like that, where he wanted to know all about himself, who he was, and to free himself from all his hang-ups or whatever, the 60s language, from the hang-ups and whatever was bothering him back then, and to free himself. And so that's the Jupiter on the ascendant in the first house in his chart. You'll see the connection with medicine, of course, is from the Neptune. If you look at his chart, like we say, Neptune is the co-ruler. He had Neptune at the very end of Leo, almost in Virgo, but it was in the 6th house, the house of health. Right, and it was exactly trine to the midheaven, the career. So already that indicates a career in medicine, by being in the 6th house, by being in Neptune, a Neptunian field of medicine. Right? We'll learn later on what the Neptunian fields of medicine are. For example, the main one, I guess, is psychiatry, psychoanalysis, also endocrinology, the hormonal system. All things like that are connected with Neptune. So here you see right away in this chart the powerful connection to the midheaven. He also had Neptune exactly opposite his moon. Again, introspection. Neptune, the moon is the instincts. When Neptune is connected to it, it turns the instincts and makes a person very introspective. And so you see, there's very introspective approach to life. And being in the 6th and 12th, he was it's not such a good house, so his Neptune led him to drinking. He had a definitely drinking problem for a large portion of his life. And that's also indicated by that Neptune in the 6th. And opposite the moon, right, harming the instincts, the drinking. And but you see that Neptune was very powerful in this chart by being exactly opposite the moon and exactly trying the midheaven. And so you see the career in psychiatry is pretty well played out. He has the Uranus, like we said, he has the Uranus also on the ascendant, which modifies a little bit the Piscean nature. It gives him more desire for freedom, right? It's a contradiction. Pisces they want freedom, but they want freedom by merging. The Uranian wants to be free by being separate, right? The Uranian says freedom is isolation. The Piscean says freedom is unification. And so when you have Uranus and Pisces, it can be a difficult aspect. But in any case, he wanted freedom. He wanted to find a psychoanalytical approach that would lead to freedom. And it was a cul-de-sac, so to speak. But so in any case, we take a little bit. We saw some of his chart, and I thank everybody for listening.